Hey guys, it's Greg from the Cutting Mechanics, and this is my dual sword double tutorial. Now, before I jump into the actual tutorial, there's a few safety things I want to point out. First off, if you're not fully comfortable using a single sword, please do not jump into dual swords. Dual swords is extremely dangerous to do, and you really want to be as comfortable as you can with a single sword first. The second one too is that it does take a lot of time dry training. The reason why I say that is because you do not want to do a trial and error with live blades, because if you end up on the air side, it could be very, very permanent. And with the dual swords, you have two edges now you have to worry about, and two different paths you have to worry about too. So it does become a little bit complicated, and you really, really want to make sure that you know that cut forward and backwards before you try and attempt it with live blades. Now the cut I'm going to be doing today is going to be the first cut that I learned for doubles, and it's basically just a 1-2. It's a closed horizontal to an open diagonal downward. So closed horizontal to open diagonal downward. Now, there's really two concepts, I think, that are fundamental to dual swords, and if you can understand those two concepts, it sets the constraints for how the dual swords work, and you can kind of maneuver within those constraints then to figure out how it can work best for you. The first one is fixed positions. What fixed positions do is it's a solution so that you can keep your swords out of each other's paths so you don't clash swords and you don't hit yourself. The entire idea behind this is that you put as much attention on your offhand as you do on your cutting hand. So the offhand, the way that I'm using it, is going to be whichever hand is not immediately cutting. So 50% of my attention goes into the hand that's cutting, 50% goes into my offhand, which is not cutting at that moment. The fixed positions are a place where you can put your sword where it's out of the path of whichever sword is cutting as much as possible. And it's also a place where we practice over and over again so that you know for sure when you're in the heat of the moment of your cut that your sword's paths are clear and that you know exactly where your swords are and where they are going. Now, typically, there's two places I like to use a lot for fixed positions for myself. The first one is up here, right there, resting against the shoulder. Now, I don't use double-edged swords, so I do actually rest my sword against my shoulder so it's touching or it's very, very close. It's either up here or sometimes I'll rest it a little bit lower here down by the bicep. There are a few instances where I'll drop it down low, but we can get into that at a later time. So fixed positions, practice those. Figure out where your sword is less likely to hit your other sword, or ideally where it won't hit it at all. And also, don't just consider this part of your sword here, but also the back end too. Will it hit when I swing back this way? Figure out where it fits best and then begin to practice all of your strikes with fixed positions on there. That's the only solution I've come across, at least. This seems to be foolproof for me for clashing swords. Okay? And now, the second one is going to be edge awareness. I do like using katanas. I don't really like using double-edged swords because of this, edge awareness. Always make sure that your edge is pointing as far away from you as possible. When I have my fixed position here for my offhand, I don't have the blade here. I have it as far out from me as possible. And again, as far out as possible. And whenever I rest my sword, I always rest the window here with the blade facing away from me. So even if I do slip, it's going to be very, very hard for me to cut myself on this sword as long as I know where that blade is facing the entire time. So fixed position and then knowing where your edge are. Those are the two major constraints to dual swords. If you can figure those out, then dual swords becomes much, much easier. Now, heading back over to the cut. I have my fixed position here. I start off here. I'm going to come through and do my swing just as I normally would with one hand. I have my fingers here holding it. I use my knuckles to guide where the sword is going, and that's just something that works really well for me. I use my knuckles kind of to figure out where I'm going. If you notice when I'm doing dual swords also, my knees are usually very, very bent, even more so than if I'm doing single sword. And the reason behind that is because I engage my entire body when I'm using the dual swords. You'll hear almost every single cutter say that the arms don't do the cutting, the body does the cutting, and in this case that is very, very much the case here as well. The other thing is too that the way that I do my dual swords is maybe a little bit different than others that you've seen because all my power comes from my core and generates outward. There are some other cutters out there, Jake for one, when he cuts, he focuses mostly on the tip of the sword, and that's mostly where his energy is going. For me, it's a little bit opposite, especially for dual swords, because all my energy comes from the center of my body and transfers outward. That's why I engage my entire body. Also, as you'll see with most cutters too, my hips and my shoulders engage simultaneously or with a little bit of delay. So on that first one, I start to do my turn, and I turn outward. And, you know, this is just as you would for any other single strike. And then I follow through, and I drop down that diagonal to finish off the cut. This is a very, very simple cut. 1, 2, and you drop down, and that's it. Okay? So, let's look at it again. We have the closed open. I start to do the partial turn with my body. My hips, my shoulders engage. My feet, which I'm sorry you can't see right now, but my feet though are a little bit on the ball for the back foot. So my feet begin to turn. I do my half turn, and that engages my weight, and then I follow through with the rest of the turn here. This transition is extremely fast too, so you probably can get it on single bottles once you get used to it. And this just takes a lot of practice too. One of the reasons why I like the aluminum Mianos is because they are very, very lightweight, and it gets me used to really kind of controlling that blade with just my fingers and my wrist. So again, just to review, fixed positions, here, edge awareness. Where is my edge? You should know where your edge is the entire time. You should know where your offhand sword is the entire time. When you're cutting, you engage your entire body. When you're cutting, it should be shoulders, hips, and so forth, and feet all turning at the same time. And you drop down. Take it slow. Take it very, very slow. Practice this dry for a long time before you try it live. That is the other key to dual swords as well, is do a lot of dry training. Your body has to know it backwards and forwards, and always be aware of where both swords are at all times. Okay, great. Really appreciate your time, guys. This is Greg from the Cutting Mechanics, signing off.